Well, today is Mother's Day, or as it's more traditionally known, Mothering Sunday. For my mother, the distinction's important. Mother's Day being more of a secular occasion and celebration of being a mum, but Mothering Sunday being a deeper celebration of all that motherhood entails. Spiritual elements even as we think of the church and of God. Well, I think for the majority of people living in Jersey today, it's Mother's Day. It's a card given to a mother, it's flowers delivered, it's a meal out if it's less than 10, and it's simply to say thank you for being mum. Of course, there's the danger that we can paint a perfect picture of a mother, holding someone up to be more than they truly are, as we're presented with an ideal that nobody quite attains. But maybe that's thinking too deeply about it all, and we should just sit back and celebrate good things today. Because actually it is good to remember and to celebrate mothers, because what they do and what they give is so important. If you're in the midst of life with smaller children at the moment, then just getting to the end of a day, or the end of a week, or the end of a term, or the end of a lockdown, with everyone still simply alive and well, can be a huge achievement. Maybe this quote is true if you're in that stage of life. The joy of motherhood is what you experience when all the children are finally in bed. Of course, we're not all mothers, but we do all have a mother, whether she is still with us or not. And it's good to be thankful for them. So I'm going to ask you at this point just to pause, and maybe pause the video in a moment and think of something you're grateful for, that your mother does or your mother did for you. What can you say thank you for today? Or if you are a mother today, maybe you could think of what it is you're thankful for about being a mum. Thank God for those things now. Let's just take a few moments to think about that. Why not pause the video and restart it in a couple of minutes. Well, I don't know whether you found it easy or hard to think of something to say thank you for. Knowing how things work in life, I imagine that some of us would have found that harder, because we haven't all had ideal relationships with our mum or as a mother. Because life's messy. Either because, as I hinted at earlier, no one lives up to that perfect ideal of the ideal mother, or because the circumstances of life and the relationships we're in make Mother's Day hard through disappointment or hurt. Mother's Day can actually stir up many different emotions and feelings within us. So maybe I need to listen to my mum a little more with her emphasis on Mothering Sunday, just giving that bigger perspective. Because actually there are a wide variety of roles that could come under that umbrella. Please watch this video, and then we'll come back in a moment.
Happy Mother's Day, Sarah. After waiting to have a child for so many years, you must be overjoyed to have Isaac. Today is about you and all those who are still waiting. Happy Mother's Day, midwives of Israel. You risked your own safety to ensure the survival of countless children. Today is about you and all those who care for children and call it work. Happy Mother's Day, daughter of Pharaoh. By welcoming Moses into your family, you showed so much love. Today is about you and all foster and adoptive parents. Happy Mother's Day, Naomi. You walked with Ruth as a friend and cared for a child as your own grandchild. Today is about you and all grandmothers and extended family who care for children. Happy Mother's Day, Hannah. You let go of Samuel, even though it hurt you. Today is about you and all those whose children are not living with them right now. Happy Mother's Day, Anna. Life didn't go as you had hoped, yet you found peace and worth in your service to God. Today is about you and all those experiencing heartache at how things have turned out. Happy Mother's Day, Lois and Eunice. Your faith changed Timothy's life. Today is about all those who are playing a part in raising the next generation. Mother's Day is about you, whatever your role might be.
Mother's Day is about you, whatever your role, as a woman here at Town Church. It's why we've sent every lady in our church a card from Mike and Emma and Kate and myself, expressing our love and our prayers for you, and thanking you for your service in who you are, whatever way that's shown in your life. And it's that serving element, that other person focus, that is behind the initiative of us giving money for each woman in our church to the UNICEF COVAX project, enabling that same number of people to get their COVID vaccine sooner in low-income countries. Giving, unselfish, servant-hearted, other person-centred, sacrificial love. I think that's actually at the heart of what may distinguish a mother's love. And such a love forces us to focus on the person of Jesus, actually, who perfectly embodies such love. I looked up the set readings for today that were separate from Mother's Day in the Church of England calendar as part of my preparation for this talk. And the two main ones were John 3 and Numbers 21. And in John 3, we get those famous words that many of us know from verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. God's sacrificial love there is seen in the giving of Jesus, so that we may have life. But the couple of verses before that, we often don't read, because they're a bit weird. But in them, Jesus fleshes out how we receive the benefits of that sacrificial love. Let me read verses 14 and 15. Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him. Well, what on earth is that all about? Well, to understand it, we need to go back to Numbers 21, a time when the Israelites were wandering in the desert because of their lack of trust. They simply hadn't believed that God could take them into the promised land. And as they wander around the desert, they grumble again, not trusting God's timing or God's provision or God's care for them. In Numbers 21 verse 4 we read, the people grew impatient along the way. They spoke against God and against Moses, and they said, oh, why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There's no bread, there's no water, and we detest this miserable food. That's the manna God gave them. They criticise God, they criticise his character and his heart. And as a result, God sends poisonous snakes into their camp. The people soon realise their mistake and they ask God to take the snakes away. And this is what he says in verse 8. The Lord said to Moses, make a snake and put it up on a pole, and anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. And then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. We see that God didn't take the snakes away, but he did provide a way that they could be saved from them. All they had to do was to look at this bronze snake on a pole in the centre of the camp, and they had to believe that by doing that, they'd be saved and live. And they were. Now, fast forward 1,500 years to what Jesus does and says about himself in John chapter 3. He says there again in verse 14, just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Well, we know where Jesus was lifted up. We know where he gave his life for us. It was on the cross. It was on a pole in the ground. And just as all the Israelites had to do to be saved from their snakes and live was to look at a bronze snake on a wooden pole and believe that it would save them, so all we need to do, Jesus says, is to look at the cross, where Jesus hung on a wooden pole, and believe that what he did there saves us and gives us life. The sacrificial love of Jesus for us is seen supremely on the cross. And it's only through the cross that we can be saved and know life as it's truly meant to be. And it was a huge cost for Jesus. If there were any other way, Jesus would have taken it. He said so in the Garden of Gethsemane, didn't he? He said, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." That is sacrificial love. And just like the Israelites in the desert who could do nothing to save themselves, they just had to trust in God's provision of a model snake on a pole, we're reminded here that we can do nothing to save ourselves. We just have to trust in God's provision of his Son on a cross, in our place, to take away our sin and to give us life. In the Bible course we're doing in our Connect group on a Tuesday evening, the presenter of the videos said these words this last week. The word for the cross in Latin is crux, from which we get our word crucial. The cross of Jesus Christ is crucial. It runs through the whole Bible story and it holds the whole thing together. It tells us that God so loved the world that his Son was crucified for us. Well, as Mothering Sunday causes us to reflect on sacrificial love, all of us can place our focus on Jesus, whose sacrificial love for us on the cross gives everything we need to truly live. Let's make sure we're doing that and be thankful. Whatever role you may have on Mother's Day, thinking back to that video we watched, look to Jesus as your example and your model. And for those whom we love because of our role, let's make sure our main concern is not their goodness or their obedience or their achievements in life. For none of these will save them. Only faith in Jesus. Only through that faith will they know life. So let's point them to Jesus. And to encourage us as we finish, none of us love perfectly. So I thank God that in Jesus, and because of Jesus, there is grace. Enjoy Mother's Day.